Greetings, friends and Firebirds fans, and welcome to the Desert Suns Fire and Ice podcast, presented by Desert Willow Golf Resort. Coming to you from Palm Desert, California, a mere Jacob Melanson scar away from the Birds' home ice of Acrisure Arena. I'm your host, Judd Spicer. Fourth season of Firebirds hockey. Fourth season of Fire and Ice. Fourth season, I'm probably buried the lead with a playoff advance. That's how we do. The Firebirds don't stop playing hockey in April. Never have. I want to say never will, but to date, never have. Fourth year in the second round of the playoffs. Yeah, things got a little funky at the outset of the first round series versus those pesky Bakersfield Condors. Took it to us in game one this Thursday past on their home ice. And then the Birds, of course, storming back over the course of this Saturday and Sunday, respectively, to grab that first round series. Much more on what was and what will be momentarily. We'll do so with Firebirds, I think we can say, rising stud forward, call him OFM in the business, Oscar Fisker Mølgaard, to be joining me momentarily. And FYI, PS, whatever acronym you want to use, if it sounds a little different, doing this interview, generally do it, a little pull back of the curtain remotely. That's how we typically do it on Fire and Ice. But we're doing this one in person, post-practice. Time is tight. Turnarounds are quick in these Calder Cup Playoffs, which I'll enjoy personally, sitting down a little face-to-face with Oscar. But I just want to give you a little sound quality. We're recording differently. If it sounds different, that's why. More on Oscar shortly. In the interim, let's take a look at those who make this show go. The Desert Sun newspaper, been informing our Fair Valley since 1927, soon to celebrate that centennial next year, if my Minnesota math is correct. You can get all of it online at desertsun.com. By all of it, I mean local news, sports, festivals, and of course, Firebirds coverage, desertsun.com. Or just get yourself a physical newspaper. People still do that, whether you're doing the Sudoku, you like the funnies, you want a handhold, tangible local news and information, go buy a Desert Sun newspaper. Per the Desert Sun's personnel, reporter Andrew John going to be joining me as an epilogue guest here to close out this playoffs special edition episode of the Fire and Ice podcast. Per the special, it's a special Desert Shootout segment. We caught that with Shad Powers in the most recent edition. Different time of the season elicits different questions. We'll have those shortly for Andrew. Desert Willow Golf Resort, friends, also right here in sunny Palm Desert, California, home to the Mountain View and Firecliff courses, respectively. What an awesome time, these shoulder seasons, to be teeing it up over at DW. We could be 106 degrees at this point as we trend toward May, but no, we're not. We're in idyllic 86. Conditions are in peak and prime condition over at both of those golf courses. Get those tee times online today at desertwillow.com. And when you're over there poking around on that website, be sure to check out the awesome, excellent, and on-site Palm Desert Golf Academy. Been over there myself many times, getting fine-tuned by Paul Busey and co. That's got all your swing knowledge, technique, and tutelage needs. All right, let's skate right on into it for these episodes. Firebirds Freeze Frame segment. Take a little bit closer look at that Bakersfield series and what will be in round two as the Birds ready for a best of five versus our I-10 rivals, the Ontario Reign. Of course, this Firebirds Freeze Frame segment, friends, is brought to you by a couple of great new additions to the Fire and Ice podcast in season 4. Because ice action is not limited to Acrisure alone. Hockey fans seeking some pregame drinks, postgame toasts, you need only look up to the high desert, where our Firebirds friends at both the 29 Palms Beer Company and the Ground Squirrel, that's GRND, SQRL, they're serving up some awesome meats and incredible beers in downtown 29 Palms. Fine time, by the way. It certainly heats up a little bit. Always a bit cooler in the high desert, cooler in 29 Palms. The Ground Squirrel sports an awesome gastropub-style scratch-made menu. Might suggest those pepperberry dry rub wings to get started, and really, you're going to be amazed. You're going to be blown away by the cuisine and what they're serving up over at the Ground Squirrel. They match that menu with a rotating list of excellent craft beers. Those seeking a potent power play, hey, skate it right on down the street to the 29 Palms Beer Company. They're brewing up their own phenomenal beers right on site. And get this, very important, they're televising every Firebirds game, home or away. Perfect way to kick up watching Firebirds playoff hockey over at the 29 Palms Beer Company. So look, you're a local, you're a desert local seeking a fun new scene. You're a desert guest visiting as we trend toward the shoulder season. You're up there exploring Joshua Tree, kicking around Pioneer Town. Maybe you're celebrating a Birds playoff win. Perhaps, like last Thursday night, drowning your sorrows after a tough loss. You lace up the hospitality in 29 Palms, where the Ground Squirrel and the 29 Palms Beer Company, those are proving your high desert hockey homes. All right, dudes, things look a little funky to get this playoff season underway. We talked about it last time with Shad Powers. Talked about it, I think, over the last couple episodes of Fire and Ice. A little bit worried about those Bakersfield Condors. Good team, fast team. They got some vets, they got some scorers. Didn't want to start that series on the road, but we ultimately did. And it didn't go particularly well. Things looking a little forlorn after that 1-6 loss last Thursday night. But hot damn did the boys battle back over the course of this Saturday and Sunday, respectively. 5-4 win on Saturday. Got a little bit nervy toward the end, and then a really impressive 6-2 win to close out that series on Sunday late afternoon. And hot damn, that second period in that Sunday game, that might have been the best period that the Firebirds have played all season long. Things just all clicked. Things just all came together. Ice really tilted. Just some electric play from the boys. And dare I say, having covered this team for 4 straight years, that might have been the most, or certainly one of the most, let's not get hyperbolic, let's not get too carried away. I'm going to say one of the most important periods in the brief and oftentimes brilliant history of these Firebirds. So key, leading them to that eventual 6-2 win. That's how we do. On and on, on and on, and on and on. I'm too cheap to pay for the Erykah Badu, and I'll probably get some copyright infringement notes. They've actually played the song, so I'll just sing it for you. But that's how the Firebirds play all time. We've played 12 playoff series. They've won 9 of them. Never have the Firebirds not appeared, except for the double negative, but never have they not appeared in the second round of these Calder Cup playoffs. Bye-bye Bakersfield. Hello Ontario. Boys now move on to a team that finished in first place after an excellent season for the Reign. Finished in first in the Pacific Division. Authored themselves a very impressive record of 47, 23, and 2. Their 99 total points is 4th best in the American League this season. Teams, of course, are well versed on one another. Just the second all-time playoff meeting, however, between the Birds and the Reign, first coming 2 years ago during the Birds' second consecutive run to the Calder Cup Finals. Faced Ontario, went to Ontario, came back here, got it done in short, sweet time. That was a 3-0 series sweep. Not sure we can necessarily expect or anticipate the same for this go-around because Ontario is really darn good. And at the same time, as the Firebirds proved in that first round, not only are they a particularly resilient bunch, but we're really damn good too. And we showed as much versus Ontario for the most part over the course of the season. From the Birds' vantage, over the course of those 8 meetings, the 8 times that the 2 teams played, Birds authored a record against Ontario of 3-3-2. I guess if you looked at it from a different lens, the Ontario lens, it would look a little different. Why? Because, well, of those 8 games, 4 of them took place in overtime, needed extra minutes to get those done, and 5 of those games were 1-goal contests. So for the most part, in very large part, the 2 teams played very, very tight. How did Ontario get it done this year? Well, they have depth. They have depth of scoring. They have some good scorers, and they have some exceptional goaltending. Per the former, 6 guys, 6 players for the Reign this year hit that 40-point mark, with Messrs. Chromiak and Alexandrov both co-leading the team ultimately with 56 points. Chromiak did lead the Reign with 28 goals on the year. Should be noted that with the Kings eliminated in swift fashion, not that they played terribly, but getting knocked out and swept by the Avalanche in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs, did get a player back, Burnsville, Minnesota's own, by the way, Jared Wright making his way back to Ontario after the Kings eliminated for the postseason. Jared did play all 4 games for the Kings in that opening round loss to the Avalanche. Also had himself a fine season for Ontario with 54 games, 17 goals, 13 points. 13 assists rather. It tells me he had 30 total points on the year. Cumulatively, as mentioned, Ontario they do score eighth in total goals in the AHL this year, 237, but probably likely more notably, I think it's safe to say, fourth in the entire American League in goals against, allowing just a mere 187 on the season. In comparison, in contrast, with the Birds' most recent opponent, Bakersfield, obviously gave up a lot of goals. We scored a lot of goals in that series as well. 49 fewer goals did Ontario allow over the course of the regular season when compared with those Bakersfield Condors. One good thing, I'm going to call it a good thing. People could look at it a few different ways, but the Reign, by virtue of achieving that first place finish and the number 1 overall seed in the Pacific Division, they do have the bye, and it turned out to be a pretty lengthy one. By the time that these two teams get back to action this Wednesday night, Ontario have had an 11-day break. We've seen how that's gone for the Firebirds a couple of years ago when we had a lengthy break and then came out a little funky. I want to say it was against Calgary, which of course we ultimately overcame in short time. But the start of that series did look a little rusty. We'll see if the Reign are the same when we get to Toyota Arena this Wednesday night, which serves as a fine segue to the round 2 series schedule. Yeah, Wednesday, April 29th. Birds are away to get this best of 5 going at Toyota Arena in Ontario, the I-10 rival. We'll see you on the highway. We'll see you over there. I'm going to make my way there for Game 1. That's a 7 p.m. puck drop at Ontario. Game 2, also at Ontario, this Friday, May 1st, also a 7 p.m. start time. Series then turns back here to Palm Desert, going east on the 10. Game 3, next Tuesday, May 5th. That is a 7 p.m. start time. Now we get into the asterisks. I think I said that right. Man, I really struggle with that word. Game 4, if necessary, will take place at Acrisure Arena next Thursday, May 7th. That will also be a 7 p.m. start. And then, if needed, the series deciding Game 5 will occur next Saturday, May 9th, 6 p.m. start in Ontario, back to Toyota Arena. Last time we played the playoffs there, I remember driving down the I-10, going west on the I-10, seeing a lot of those Firebirds flags kind of all streaming in unison. There were thousands. I want to say, dare I say, thousands of Firebirds fans that made their way for that playoff game in Ontario. Hope we certainly see the same again. One more thing on the Reign I want to mention, just to kind of close out that thought about their excellent goaltending. They got 2 guys, 2 vets that really get it done. Eric Portillo, both of them veterans, by the way. Eric Portillo, 18-7-3 over the course of this last year, 2.45 goals against and a save percentage, very good, of .907. And then the veteran Phoenix Copley, he was back and forth. He played 78 NHL games, so he's back and forth a little bit. 21-11-1, also a good goals against of 2.59. And the save percentage also over 900, .901. Those 21 wins for Phoenix were good for 11th in the entire AHL. Per the Birds players, well, a lot of them really stepped up, including our guest on this episode. Oscar Fisker Mølgaard led the Birds in that first round series with 5 points, including a very impressive 3 goals paired with 2 assists. Those 5 points should be noted, good for second in the entire AHL playoff scoring chase. Had 3 guys all really stepped up, Messrs. Melanson, Morrison, and Newman, each with 4 points, 1 goal, and 3 assists apiece. That goal that Yanni scored in the deciding Game 3, it was nice to see him do that. We need him to heat up. That breaks a 10-game scoreless streak for Yanni. And then Furcus and Ty Nelson, Jagger Furcus and Ty, each contributed 3 points apiece. Both of them played some exceptional hockey in coming back to grab that first-round series over Bakersfield. All right, friends, all that offered, all that preface, that's going to wrap up the Firebirds Freeze Frame segment. Thanks again to the Ground Squirrel and the 29 Palms Beer Company. Let's get to this episode's playoff visit with forward Oscar Fisker Mølgaard. All right, Firebirds friends, as preface, my guest on this episode is a 21-year-old native of Denmark. He is well-traveled over the course of this season. We've enjoyed his presence here in the desert for 49 games, not including 3 more playoff games. Also spent 13 with the Kraken up in the NHL. Also spent some time in Italy playing 4 games for Team Denmark. Tried to get him at least twice, if not 3 efforts over the course of this season, but he keeps getting called up. But we finally pinned down, we call him OFM in the business. Welcome Oscar Fisker Mølgaard to the Fire and Ice podcast. Hello, Oscar.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Glad to finally be here.
Yeah, we finally got you pinned down, man.
Oh yeah.
21 years old. Now finally, legally, you can drink a Carlsbad here in the States at least. Would that be your Danish beer of choice?
Probably, yeah. I gotta admit, even though it's kind of embarrassing that I don't like beer that much, I'm getting more into it. But as a Dane, it kind of sounds wrong not liking beer. So I'm still learning and trying to get better at it.
Is there a Danish beer more popular than that? I've been, as I will reference briefly but momentarily, I've been to Copenhagen, and everyone was drinking Carlsbad. I don't know if there's a different beer.
Yeah, no, I think that one's pretty hard to beat. That's obviously our own brand, so we're proud of it, and a lot of guys drink it a lot back home. One
of the other things I did, and this is a family show, this is for kids, so I won't delve too deep into some of my Copenhagen experiences back in like 1998 or something like that. But we went to Christiana. You're familiar, I assume, with Christiana?
Yeah.
Okay, I assumed that you were. I didn't want to catch you off guard with that, but yeah, being a native Dane, I figured you were. Maybe the strangest, most unique, interesting, weird place I've ever been in my life.
It's quite interesting. I mean, I grew up pretty far from Copenhagen in a smaller town, so I got some family in Copenhagen. So when we would go visit them, we would obviously always go there and trying to check it out. And when you were young, it was pretty cool going there and telling all your friends that you went there. And yeah, it's quite interesting, but also a fun place. And I mean, the people from that community obviously love it, so it's quite the place.
Yeah, and at Christiana, it's like that maybe not for kids. Like that maybe not. That's not probably a kid's playground.
But again, there's like they don't harm anyone. I mean, a lot of people go there, walk around. It's honestly it's a beautiful place as well. A lot of great nature, funny buildings. So as a kid, as a school, it was fun going there. Walking around and seeing that stuff. Even though obviously some stuff was going on once in a while. Sure,
colorful place. A lot of, as you said, there's nature, a lot of artists, a lot of unique architecture. Obviously, when I was there, I was like a 22-year-old kid. It made an impression on me and it's stuck with me ever since.
Sure.
All right, I had to get in a Copenhagen or Christiana reference. Sticking with your roots, and fear not, listeners, we will get to the condors and eventually the rain here, but been waiting to ask Oscar some of these questions since like January. I'm curious about this. I don't know if this is part of Danish heritage, but you go with the Fisker, Oscar Fisker Mølgaard, but Fisker is your mom's maiden name?
It is.
Okay. Does everybody do that in Copenhagen?
So I guess my parents aren't married, so that kind of has a role too. I know a lot of my friends do have double last names back home, so that's why I've kind of always been using both of mine. As I said, my parents are married, so it's always been Fisker Mølgaard, and especially since I got older, I've been using Fisker even more, and trying to make that last name proud as well. So it's just it's kind of become a bigger thing, and I don't mind it. I'm glad to make mom happy as well.
Yes, and sometimes I've seen you like the Olympics, and we'll get to that, but it lists your name as Oscar Mølgaard. They didn't include the Fisker. At least when you go like to the Olympics page. I mean, when you see somebody exclude or take out the Fisker, do you have to tell them like, no, this is what I go by?
Yeah, you're right. I gotta be more aware of that. Yeah.
Speaking of your parents, again, going back to January when doing some research on you and your family, your dad, a fine hockey player, Lars, correct?
Yeah.
Played a lot of years of professional hockey in Europe, like 15?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I think he started pretty early, and obviously he grew up in Denmark, played there for a while. I think he had 2 junior years in Dolphin Kings here in North America. Yeah, and then eventually went back home again and played for from my hometown team, and that's where he met my mom as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Different type of player than you?
He was an offensive forward, not that responsive. Didn't have that much responsibility in the D zone like I tend to do sometimes. But yeah, he was a goal scorer, could score goals, and he was physical, and had some of that in his game. So it was easy for me to grow up with a guy like that. He was even a part of the national team as well, and obviously the Danish hockey community is one small big family. So just having him when I was growing up, and he had a lot of connections and all that stuff, obviously made it a bit easier on me.
Do you guys communicate a lot about hockey? Does he like to give you advice?
We do, especially when I was younger. I'm trying not to listen to him too much now that I'm over here, and I like to say that I'm finally better than him. But especially when I was younger, I think that was a huge thing for me to kind of have him to lean on. I mean, it wasn't always easy on me, which obviously when I was younger wasn't always that fun. But now looking back at it, I think that's kind of one of the reasons that I am where I am today, and obviously I wouldn't be here without him or my mom as well, and the rest of my family. So I appreciate all the tough talks and all the tough times, but also the good things and all that stuff he's taught me out there.
Would you say, and maybe your dad will listen to this, would you say to Lars that you are now decidedly better than he ever was?
Yeah, I think we kind of figured it out. That could even been a year or two ago as well. But that's something we've been discussing for a while, and I think he might agree on that.
Well, speaking of your parents, they obviously continue to follow your career, support you closely. There were some very meaningful stories that I thought that came out of the NHL back in November when you made your debut. I think it was in Chicago. Correct me if
that's correct.
Okay. Yeah. And your parents, a very lengthy journey to see you make that NHL debut, upwards of 30 hours of travel to get there.
Yeah, that was kind of crazy. I remember getting into the office here in Coachella the day before. It was a Wednesday. And Ron was in there too, and they told me I was flying to Chicago and play my first NHL game that next day. So obviously my heart started pumping right away, and getting sweaty and all that, and then grabbed my phone and went to call mom and dad right away. So that was a special moment for us, and I remember Dad saying like, "Oh, when are we getting on a plane?" Like he was just ready to go, and they were both on their way home. I think Dad was still at work, but Mom was on her way home. So just straight home and started packing, and then off to Copenhagen and off to Chicago.
And I believe your brother was in attendance as well.
Too, yeah, so I think it was important for me to also have him there. He's been a big part of this too. Been dragged all around Europe, and I don't know what. So we definitely wanted him there as well, and I'm glad they all made it in time for that game.
Yeah, I don't know if you'll remember this, Oscar, but it stuck out to me. You and I were chatting before we got the recorder cooking here formally, and I mean I've been to a lot of these games. I've been around this arena a lot, been around this team a lot, but I remember distinctly it must have been like a year ago, probably a little longer than that. It was right when you got here for the first time. And you were like literally had just gotten here. You were fresh off the plane. You walked into the pregame meal room with Troy Bodie, and I was sitting there having dinner, and it was pretty quiet in there, and you just came right up to me and introduced yourself, and it was like, you were literally fresh off of the plane, and I put down my utensils, and I was like, oh wow, we just don't see that, or I haven't experienced that on a weekly or monthly or even seasonal basis, where before the games and such, or players, they kind of like their space, the media like their space. But I distinctly remember, like, what a nice young man, what a gentleman to just kind of say, how you doing, and you asked me a few questions, and then I'd let you go on your way. And we look at you and your career now a year later, and that, not just your talent, but I think that type of attitude and your personality, I mean, what a year for you, man. Like, if we would have talked a year ago about, oh, by the way, you're going to be playing 13 games in the NHL, you're going to be playing in the Olympics with Team Denmark, where you're going to perform very well. What would you have said to me if like you knew that was going to be your experience ahead?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I would have believed you. Again, you can always dream, and that's always something I've been, trying to do. But yeah, I remember getting over here last year, and kind of nervous about it all. You want to get over here and make a good impression, and get to know all the guys, and kind of get prepared for what's ahead for this upcoming year, or this year we just had. So. And I was, you're just trying to, get into things and, get to know guys, both on the team and outside the team. And, I think those 7 games I had definitely did good for me and really helped me prepare for this season. So, yeah, I'm glad I ended up going here.
I don't want to ask you to gauge or rank what was more impactful for you or upon you this past season, but kind of weigh out for me the 13 games in the NHL, the impact that had, and then the 4 games playing in the Olympics. Different, I'm sure, but equally meaningful in different ways.
Absolutely. I mean, it's always hard to put those 2 things up against each other. I mean, you've always been dreaming of playing in the NHL. That was a childhood dream of mine, and as it is for most hockey players growing up. But at the same time, whenever you get the opportunity of representing your country, and especially at probably the biggest stage in the world at the Olympics, I don't think it gets a lot bigger than that as well. So I've been fortunate enough to do both this year, and probably once the season is over eventually, hopefully in a couple weeks, then you can look back at it and kind of really like. Then probably you'll realize what had happened. I think right now you're still kind of in the moment, haven't really, I wouldn't say haven't enjoyed it, but you haven't really maybe not realized exactly what has happened. So, it'll be fun eventually once the season is over to look back at and really, once you'll realize that, okay, wow, this was a fun year, and obviously they'll give you, you'll want it even more. So. Yeah, no, it'll be great eventually. Yeah.
The depth that we saw at the Olympics was obviously very, very impressive as this continues to become even more of a global game. Obviously, I think we all assessed the chalk that the top teams were going to be U.S. and Canada, but beyond that, Denmark included, there were 6 or 7 teams that those that really followed the Olympics closely knew were going to be very, very good. Denmark ultimately won 1 game when you got to the, I think it was the qualifier playoff round. You had a very good game against the Czechs. You lost 2-3. Did you expect more? Did you think Denmark might do better?
I mean, it's always hard. We knew it was going to be a good tournament, but again, you got to believe, and our goal within the team was a quarterfinal, and obviously we came up a bit short against Czechia in that last game. I think we played well. Again, we played well all tournament. I think we started off well against Germany. Honestly, I think we could have and should have won that game, but unfortunately that didn't happen. Obviously, then we played the U.S. They had a great team. We played solid, but they were better than us. And then again, I think we didn't play our best game against Latvia, but still found a way to win. And then we gave ourselves a chance against Czechia. And it was just one of those games where we got a bit unlucky at the end, and that's what happens again. It was a good tournament with great players and great teams, and it was just overall a great experience being there and watching all those athletes. At that stage, it was really fun.
Did you go watch some other events?
I tried to. Unfortunately, it was kind of spread out this year, which was a shame. But you saw athletes coming back to the village with gold medals, silver medals, and you're like, wow, those look pretty nice. I like one of those myself. So, just kind of overall the experience of being in that village and seeing other athletes, like how much it means to them too, obviously, and being a team sport is obviously different from an individual sport. So it was just fun getting to know other athletes and kind of being around them.
One of the other fascinating things about the Olympics is how one would cross paths with those with whom they've played, that played on the same teams, that are teams that you're competing against. It was a particularly interesting situation for you, I thought, because we were very, very proud to have a current Firebird we also had a former Firebird, and Alex True, that was
yeah.
part of Team Denmark. How was Alex, and did you guys I'm sure you've known him for some time, but did you communicate about the desert?
Yeah, we did. I mean, he obviously he loved it here, and he told me he misses it, and yeah, I can obviously tell why. I mean, this place is quite special, and I mean, that's what the national team does as well. I mean, we're all just one big family, and we love getting to go, and it's always the same guys going, and you get so tight, and especially me and Alex too. I mean, before going here, I was asking him a lot about the place here, where to live, how the guys, the staff, like just overall the city, and he was telling me great things, and I can only add to that too. So it was obviously going and seeing those guys and meeting former players or teammates, and just chatting and meeting other players too. I love the hockey community. It's quite the place.
Alex True, one of the most important goals in the history of Firebirds hockey. I don't know if that brought that up, but memory serves, and I have to go back to my not just January notes, but archives. Well, it was the same round that the Firebirds are about to enter. It was round 2 of our initial year. We were playing the Colorado Eagles, a very good team. A tough team to play in the second round, and we were down 1-2 in that series, if memory serves. Alex True got a shorthanded goal in that game at Acrisure Arena. We went on to win that game, and then ultimately win the series and make it to the Calder Cup Finals. I don't know if he likes to bring up that he scored that goal, but it's one that obviously sticks with us here.
Yeah, no, I think he's a humble guy. He doesn't tend to get into that stuff too much, but I'm glad you brought it up, because then I'll have to ask him about it. I think he'll probably like that. I'm pretty sure that's a great memory for him, obviously.
Yeah, if not for that, I mean, that whole first season, that whole first playoff run could have been an entirely different narrative. Very, very key moment in Firebirds history. One more on Team Denmark. One of your teammates, now his name escapes me, but he plays for Henderson Silver Knights, yes?
Yeah, Romberg.
Yes,
Jonas.
yes. Yeah. And I think you guys played, we played Henderson either right after the Olympics or it was right before the Olympics. I can't necessarily remember which. Maybe you'll remember better than I will.
Yeah, I think we played them twice right before the Olympics. I think I had left for that though. I already flew over, so I didn't play those games. And I think we might have played them one of the first games when I got back from the Olympics as well. So yeah, could have been something like that.
And any extra chatter or a wink or a laugh, or is a guy that you just played with and now playing against?
Yeah, no, I mean, unfortunately for him, he actually never went because he
no.
got hurt. He was called up a week before the Olympics and ended up getting hit, and I think something happened. It could have been his MCL or something like that.
Man.
So he was actually out for like 6 weeks or so, and just came back like a week or two before the playoffs. So that was, you gotta feel bad for a guy like that. That's the worst possible thing that could have happened. Obviously, going up to the Olympics, and I know he was definitely fired up to go, like the rest of us. And we kind of fell with him when we all went there, and that was a shame for him. So hopefully he'll get the opportunity again in 4 years.
So much for me and my dated notes. That's why we have you here to make these clarifications and corrections. The you, by the way, being Birds forward Oscar Fisker Mølgaard. Friends, you are tuning in to the Desert Suns Fire and Ice podcast presented by Desert Willow Golf Resort. Birds getting ready for a best of 5 versus our I-10 rival, the Ontario Reign. I'm going to put it this way, Oscar. You and I, where we are sitting in Acrisure Arena now, we happen to have near us we'll just call it kind of generally some scouting information on your opponent. Players that have a couple bullet points under their name. On the Reign side, what do you think the bullet points are when they're scouting Oscar Fisker Mølgaard?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that's one of the hardest questions you can get as an athlete, having to talk about yourself. But yeah, I don't know. Could be something like I don't want to give him too much, but 200 feet forward, both offensively and defensively. So they'd probably like to take away some of my speed, and I don't want to get too much into that, but we'll see if they can manage that or not.
I love it. Keeping the cards close in
Yeah.
case there are rain listeners, and I guess going through some of the data in the podcast, there are listeners in Ontario
Yeah, you never
and those
know.
surrounds.
So, gotta keep them close. Yeah.
That's fine. Well, the scouting report that I see, and you don't need a special piece of paper or any bullet points or highlighters to know this, but man, when I see you go through the neutral zone especially, and when we missed not having you here, it was something that it was kind of omitted from the Birds' attack. And now having you back, seeing the way that you move through the neutral zone, cross the blue line into the other team's zone, it's something in which you seem particularly skilled and are very, very good at. It's not a skill that a ton of players have or can do it successfully. See a lot of times where it kind of gets a little clunky, the other team takes the puck away, or the offense just kind of throws in the towel and dumps it and makes a line change or something. Is that something that you practice a lot?
Yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate enough to work with a lot of guys around the league here and even in Sweden as well. I mean, obviously the game back in Europe is a lot more puck possessed, and I like to have the puck in my stick, and especially going through the neutral zone and going with speed and coming underneath and gaining speed and getting that puck. I like to keep the puck in my stick and kind of dish it around from there. So that's something I've been working a lot with, and try and keep working on to make excel even better at it, and being able to make plays and being kind of hard to play against.
How do you work on that in practice?
I mean, it's obviously a lot of video, but again, you gotta work in your practice. It can be kind of drills. I mean, our coaches are good at doing that. We got Larky who helps us out with small details in our game. I'm fortunate enough to work with Franz Nielsen too, who works as a development guy for Seattle, and that's a guy I've been working with a lot the past 3 years since since I got drafted, which is almost 3 years ago. So you're just trying to listen and learn every single day, and I think that's what it's all about. And especially this year, it's been a learning curve for me and all the other guys and rookies. So it's been a great year.
Yeah, one of the things that we really look for here, and that we've been taught to look for across 4 years of seeing development with young guys, is how much are they comfortable with the puck on their stick in this league. And the more games you play, the longer you're here, the more you develop. It's something that I always look for. It's something that I feel like we saw a lot last year with Ty Nelson, something much more this year with Jagger Firkus, where he's kept that extra second of patience of having the puck on your stick. And certainly for you over the course of this season, it feels like that is some serious growth that we've seen. Just that extra second of having the puck on your stick before trying to pass, trying to be unselfish, maybe dumping it. For you personally, is that an area of growth that you've seen for yourself, or might it be something else that's more
no,
important?
absolutely. I mean, you wanna try and make plays when plays are to be made. Again, you want to be smart. You don't want to make stupid turnovers or anything like that. And I think especially it can be hard sometimes as a rookie coming in. You're trying to gain the coach's trust and all that stuff. But at the same time, you gotta dare to make plays, and if you make them at the right time when they are to be made, well then you can grow as a player as well. And I think you've seen, as you're mentioning, for a kid guy like him, I didn't see him much last year, but again he's just been unreal for us this year. And whenever he has the puck in his stick, good things will often happen. So he's a fun player to watch, and it's been a huge part of our success this year.
Obviously, for the fourth time as many seasons, the Birds extending into the second round of the playoffs. We're getting spoiled. We've enjoyed it now, getting to the second round, if not further, every single year. This particular first round did not start off well for the Firebirds. Obviously, it ended very well. Describe for me that bus ride back from Bakersfield after what was not a good game, a 1-6 loss for the Firebirds.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously that was, a bit of a salty feeling, but again, it goes fast in hockey. It's all about, we have to look back and see, okay, what can we do better? But at the same time, you kind of need to forget about it and reset and just, look ahead. We knew we had our backs against the wall this weekend, and I think we kind of all found our game and, all figured out, okay, what does it take to win playoff games. It's a different kind of hockey than the regular season, and I think once we figure that out, I mean we look like one hell of a team out there and played for each other, and it's just a lot of fun being a part of.
Yeah. What did you sense in that brief interim after game 1 into game 3? Were guys, was there hanging their heads, or was there concerns, worries, stress of knowing that you have to get 2 in a row, or was it that belief that we've seen this throughout the course of this year?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think we had that belief the whole time. Obviously, it didn't feel great after that first game. It didn't turn out the way we wanted it to, and you're allowed to be mad and disappointed at yourself. And I think we all kind of were to some degree, but again, as I said before, it's all about resetting, and I think we kind of did that on the bus. Chill, just hang out as we usually do. Came in Friday, had a good meeting, and kind of just talked it all out and had a good stretch, and then just some good vibes, and that belief, as you said, I think that was a big deal for us to keep believing, and that's what we did Saturday for that game. And as soon as we won that game, then anything can happen. That last game when you got everything, you got nothing to lose. Just gotta go.
Couple more for you today with Oscar Fisker Mølgaard, friends. Now move on to the second round, and what I think we can look at as a different style of test versus the Ontario Reign. Again, as mentioned at the outset of this episode, guys played them 8 times, won 3 of those games, a lot of close games, 4 in OT, 5 one-goal games. Compare and contrast the different styles of Bakersfield and what we'll see with Ontario.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of Ontario's biggest strengths is their defensive zone. I think they're a really strong defensive team. So that's something we have to, kind of figure out how to break down. And I think the key for us will be shooting pucks and, resetting pucks behind the net and, making it hard on their Ds and making them tired. So I think that'll be key for us. I think, especially Bakersfield, we knew they had a great offense. They're really dangerous when they can, get around the zone, and we saw that especially in the first game and sometimes throughout the second and the third game too. But once we start playing our game and keep the puck down in their zone, then we're one hell of a team as well. So we want to break down Ontario's game as much as possibly we can, and then gotta take it game by game. We won't win the series in the first game, so gotta come in with the same mindset as we did this weekend, and then kind of take it from there.
Yeah, we've tried over the years in different ways. Maybe some of this is media, maybe some of it is marketing, to make a rivalry with the Firebirds and the Reign, based obviously not just we're in the same division, but very close proximity, just about an hour and change away. We've had fans of ours go to see the Firebirds play at Toyota Arena. We've definitely seen a Reign contingent come over here oftentimes for their games at Acrisure Arena. Amongst the players, do you sense that there is a genuine rivalry based on this proximity, or is that something we're just making up?
No, I mean, I feel like, I don't know how it was in the past if Ontario's had a rivalry with someone else, but I think for us players, we've played them 8 times throughout the season, and it's hard not to, kind of get to kind of dislike each other out there, and, you want to beat them, and obviously they want to beat us as bad as we want to beat them. So I think kind of talking it out like that and having that rivalry, and I think that'll make the games even better and make them even more intense. So I love to call them that. I'm not sure if they have it somewhere else, but I love to call it that, and we're going to be ready to go from puck drop tomorrow.
I'll ask you lastly, Oscar. Of course, the Firebirds coming through what was a good, challenging, physical, high-scoring series. Many adjectives we could use for this first round. That was versus Bakersfield. The Reign, meanwhile, by virtue of grabbing the first seed, I mean, between their last regular season game and their first playoff game, it's like 11 days. For you personally, would you rather be in the Firebirds skates? We're like, yeah, well, we've kept this groove, we've kept this momentum, we've played together more, we've had battles, or would you rather have the 11-day rest?
No, I mean it's tough. I mean I gotta see it from our perspective, and I like where we're at right now. We've been playing some good hockey this past weekend, and I think that'll be to our advantage. Something we can bring into this game tomorrow. Obviously, rest is always good for you, but I think we're healthy, we're feeling good, and we're just ready to go tomorrow.
Oscar, appreciate your time. Go get them versus the rain, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All righty, Firebirds friends, enjoyed that visit with OFM, Oscar Fisker Mølgaard. Now wrap up this special playoff edition of the Desert Suns Fire and Ice podcast, presented by Desert Willow Golf Resort, with the Desert Shootout segment, hyphen, playoffs edition, exclamation point. At least that's how I have it typed in the subject line that I sent to our man reporter with the Desert Sun, Andrew John. Hello, Andrew.
Hey, Judd. Excited for the next round here.
Yeah, Andrew and I, looks like we're going to be road warriors together, screaming down the 10, checking out game 1. Might be a little homerish to have Firebirds flags, but I don't know. We'll see who drives. I drive fast, man. I trust you got kids. You probably drive safe. Either way,
Yeah.
we'll make it from Palm Desert, Palm Springs, La Quinta, and our desert proper along the I-10 to Toyota Arena to hopefully see a very good game for the Firebirds. In the interim, more questions, but less time for the playoffs edition of the Shootout. 7 questions for Andrew John. We set him up, we knock him down. We start with this one. Fill in the blank, Andrew. The comeback win, series comeback win over Bakersfield, has you feeling what?
Has me feeling encouraged because I think that, the end of the regular season wasn't great for the Firebirds. The first game of the last series was not great, but we know talent-wise this is a very talented group collectively, and I was encouraged that it all came together and they showed it in that game 3.
I would have to agree with you, man. And I also kind of feel like, just to add on to your answer, there's got to be a feeling of momentum that comes with surviving a tough series like that and getting past it. It has to be another building block of belief for this team. So I'm with you.
Especially for a young group, to be down and to come back, that's gotta the belief for them has got to be huge.
I agree wholeheartedly. Question 2 of 7 for Andrew John for this next series. As we move on, round 2, Birds versus Rain. You're keeping a close eye on what, Andrew?
I'm keeping a close eye on the power play because, they've struggled throughout the year on the power play, the Firebirds have, but in those 2 wins that they're coming off of, they scored each time on the power play, and I think that's going to be critical to their success in this series.
Yeah, agree entirely. We did see him wake up a little bit. Not a very good season, not a good game 1. I think 0 for 7 in that first game against Bakersfield on the power play. Also be curious to see if we get the return of Cooper Marody, who's been a nice power play addition during his brief time with the Firebirds. But I'm with you. Special teams going to have a lot to say about this series. Question 3 for Andrew John, Desert Shootout segment. The key Firebirds player for this series is whom?
I think it's Nike Coco. He had a brilliant game in game 3, and that was big for them to win because, they were outshot 15-5 in the first period, but came away with a scoreless tie going to that first intermission. And Coco, I think, deserves a lot of credit for getting the Firebirds going and keeping them in that game as before they had that big offensive explosion in the second period. I think he's going to have a big game because he's playing a very good offensive team. And I don't think there's a lot of room for the type of 6 goals that he allowed in the first game of the last series. I don't think there's going to be a lot of room for that type of play in this series.
Nike Coco said something interesting. Maybe he wishes he didn't say it, but he's a kid, and he did let this out to us at the post-game presser. on Sunday after Game 3. He said that after Saturday's Game 2 win, he said he knew that they were going to win Game 3. Again, he might have kind of not necessarily wanted to let us know that because I felt like he kind of paused after he said that. But he
Yeah.
had, I don't know, how would you, just as a follow up, how would you classify the way that he held himself, carried himself in that Sunday press conference? He seemed very buoyant to me. There was a sparkle there.
Yeah, I mean, he was I would think he was the most happy guy in the Firebirds locker room because, they if they had not won the series, then there would be a lot of people looking at his play or in the early game. And even in the second game, he was getting better every game, but in the second game, still allowed 4 goals. So I think there would have been a lot of finger pointing there on him and his play, but he was arguably the best player on the ice in that game 3. And so, I mean, how can you not be happy if you're him in that situation?
Yeah, gave up 10 goals the first 2 games, but as you referenced, got it done when it mattered most. Question 407, Desert Shootout for Andrew John of the Desert Sun. The Firebirds will win this series because blank.
Well, I think the Firebirds will win this series if they win one of the 2 games in Ontario. One of the first 2 games, I should say. I just feel like if you can win one of those, then if you come back to Acrisure Arena with the series tied 1-1, there's no guarantee you're going to win both in Acrisure Arena, but I think if they win one, I feel like the chances of them winning the series go up exponentially. And I think that it's really vital that they win one of these first 2 games because if your back is against the wall and you got to win 3 in a row, I just don't see them doing that against this Ontario Reign team. So that's why I say if the Firebirds will win the series if they win one of the first 2 games in Ontario.
Great point. One of many great points that Andrew John brought up in his preview article, which you can find at desertsun.com. Inversely, Andrew, the Reign will win this series because blank.
I think the Reign will win this series if they play the way that they have, in their recent games against the Firebirds, meaning just playing with more consistency. We saw that the Firebirds, I will say this is going to sound like a little bit of a homer, but I think talent wise, you could argue that the Firebirds may be just as talented. I think the difference is Ontario is just more of a veteran team. They're more consistent with their play, a little more buttoned up, not as much, little errors here and there. So I feel like if the Reign continue to play that way, they will win the series.
Ask you this one. It's a little step away, a little more amorphous than the other questions, but I do want to address it. Question 6 and 7, by the way, from an attendance vantage, turnout for round one, I think we can classify as just okay. And we're talking the 2 home games at Acrisure Arena. What are you hoping to see? What are you expecting to see as round 2 makes its way to the Birds Barn next week?
I expect the attendance to be higher, and that's in part because we will have a lot of Reign fans coming over. We saw Reign fans come in these last few regular season games earlier this month when the Reign played in Acrisure Arena, and the environment was just so much more electric because you had 2 fan bases kind of going back and forth with each other, and it just made it so much more fun. So I expect that, and I'm looking forward to that as well because I just feel like the deeper the Firebirds go in the playoffs, the more fan support they will have. But you also add in the fact that it's a rival that will infuse some of their own fans into the arena. It just will make for a really fun environment.
Final question in the Desert Shootout for Andrew John of the Desert Sun. Series prediction in round 2, Birds versus Reign. What do you got?
So in my preview, I did pick the Reign in 5 games. It's not going to make me the most popular guy, but I do believe that the Reign will win the series. I do see a scenario where the Firebirds can absolutely win because, like I said, one thing I'm not sure if I mentioned this in the preview, but I think this Firebirds team might be as talented as the 2024 team that went to the Calder Cup finals for the Firebirds. I just I think the difference between that team and this team is significantly younger. There's going to be young guys going through some growing pains. And I do question whether they can pull it together for a full 5-game series against a really, really good team, the best team in the Pacific Division.
It's going to make me equally unpopular. I didn't want to spoil that prediction, which was in your article. I want folks to go read it, of course, but
Yeah.
I'm inclined to agree. I don't know if it's more than once that I've ever picked against the Firebirds in any of their previous 12 playoff series, but it feels to me like this Rain team, as you referenced, you might even use this phrase, they are pretty buttoned up. They play
Hmm.
tight. They've got a couple of very good goaltenders.
Yep.
Can our guys overcome that and pop in 3 goals, maybe 4 goals a game? That might be what it takes to take down a very deep and a very good and very successful Rain team. Can the Firebirds do it? I think we're all in equal concurrence there. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, we could get past the second round, but I think it's going to take that best version of the Firebirds that we saw in period 2 on Sunday against Bakersfield. Can they put that together over a 5-game stretch? That's what we will see over the course of this second round. Andrew John, I will see you in the car tomorrow as we're screaming down the 10 toward
Yeah.
Toyota Arena. I will not support my bad habit of smoking cigarettes while in the car together, but I will probably pop a few zins along the way. Don't want your kids
Yep.
smelling you when you smell like American spirits, dude. All right, appreciate the time, Andrew John. Looking forward to our peanut gallery in Ontario Wednesday night, game 1. Thanks, buddy.
All right. Thank you.
All right, Firebirds friends, going to wrap it up with a special playoffs edition of the Desert Suns Fire and Ice podcast presented by Desert Willow Golf Resort. Continually appreciative for all your time, your interest, your ears, your support of this endeavor. So long as the birds go, so long goes Fire and Ice. Thanks to forward Oscar Fisker Mølgaard, having himself a great season, a great playoff. Appreciate his time joining after practice. And best to Oscar, continued success as the Birds ready to battle the Ontario Reign in round 2 of these Calder Cup Playoffs. Equal appreciation goes to the Desert Suns, Andrew John for the Desert Shootout segment. Of course, my partner in crime this year, the Desert Sun newspaper. Get all the online news, local sports, festival, Firebirds coverage, certainly at desertsun.com, or just go buy yourself a physical Desert Sun newspaper. Desert Willow Golf Resort, right here in sunny Palm Desert, California. That's home to the Mountain View and Firecliff courses, respectively, 2 of the finest public golf facilities, municipal golf facilities in the entire West Coast, my friends. I assure you of that. Get your tee times online today at desertwillow.com. When you're on there poking around, be sure to check out the awesome and on-site Palm Desert Golf Academy for all your instruction needs. Our friends yonder High Desert appreciate the support of both the Ground Squirrel and the 29 Palms Beer Company. Those are your High Desert hockey homes. Remember, the 29 Palms Beer Company, they're televising every Firebirds game, whether it be home or away. Great place to sit back, kick your feet up, have a cold one, watch some Firebirds playoff hockey. Quick reminder and refresh of this round 2 schedule. It is a best of 5 Firebirds versus Rain that gets underway in Ontario this Wednesday night. Hope to see you there. I'll be there. Wednesday, April 29th, 7 p.m. puck drop. Game 2 this Friday night at 7 p.m. in Ontario. Series then back in Palm Desert on next Tuesday, May 5th. Then we move on to the If Necessaries. Game 4 would be next Thursday in Palm Desert, 7 p.m. start. Game 5, if needed, to decide the series. And it might. This is going to be a tight one, friends. Game 5 would take place next Saturday, May 9th, in Ontario at the Toyota Arena, 6 p.m. start. Exciting time of the hockey season, friends. Best time of the hockey season, friends. I look forward to seeing those cars on the I-10 for Wednesday night, and I look forward to seeing a lot of butts in the seats at Acrisure Arena as the Birds make their way back in round 2 next week. Until then, in the interim, and as always, thanks again for your time and for tuning in, and be well.